Welcome back. This is George here with RestoreLiberty.us podcast. In our third and final section, we're going to talk about the real red meat coming down the road, and that's 2024. There's more than a couple big things on that ballot, President, Senate, and locally here, we're trying to get District 1 back into the win column for conservatives. Orlando, you've announced you're running. Give me the quick 10,000-foot level of who you are, how you got to where you are now.
Yeah, well, again, George, thanks for having me. I mean, I'm just excited, particularly about this race, not just because it's the race that I'm running in. 2024, just like you alluded to, is going to be a big year, right? It's going to be an important year. It's for Ohioans to truly say, look, it is conservative values that are truly what's best for the state, and not just the state for Southwest Ohio. Not just for Southwest Ohio, greater Cincinnati, you know? And so I did announce my candidacy for U.S. Congress for the 1st Congressional District, which right now is a portion of Hamilton County, a large portion of Hamilton County, and all of Warren County, you know? And my motivation for running really comes down to two things. Father of 4 kids, all under the age of 8.
Wow, I don't know how you're going to pull that one off. I have met your wife. She is a go-getter, so you got a chance there.
That's right. It's because of my wife that I'm absolutely doing this. And look, we are doing this, our family, is because I see the trajectory of where our country is going, and it's not good. For not just for me and my generation, our generation, but for my kids' generation. Whether it's how they're going to live in a safe or unsafe community, or whether they're going to live in a country that's going to be prosperous, or one where everyone is going to break the bank just to make ends meet, or in such a way where their parents' rights are stripped away, their rights are stripped away as children, and then they're not growing up in a way that's thriving for them educationally, or just in the way that they make their life decisions and how they want to thrive as citizens in America. So my motivation comes truly from them, is I want to make sure that we leave Greater Cincinnati much better than how I found it. You know, when I moved here about 6 years ago, my wife is a Cincinnatian. You know, she is the Cincinnati native, and we met, of all places, at West Point. I can thank former Congressman Steve Shabbat for nominating my wife Jessica, because if it wasn't for him, I would not have met Jessica.
Oh, wow,
you know?
That's interesting.
And so that's where we met, and we served together in the U.S. Army, both active duty officers. And from West Point, New York, we found our way to Savannah, Georgia, where I served as an infantry officer and then a finance officer later half of my career, and Jessica was a human resource officer. Coming back to Cincinnati, both trying to serve in the community as a CPA and completely doing a 180.
So you have a CPA and a law degree.
I'm an Ohio CPA, worked for Ernst & Young, and founded a financial planning firm focused on serving millennial families in greater Cincinnati. And then after that, going to law school at Georgetown Law to be a prosecutor here in Hamilton County. So my story is one not just of service, but of leadership. You know, at West Point, we were taught that leaders aren't born, they're made. You know, it's leaders that understand that they have an ability to truly positively impact whatever organization or group that they're put into. And so whether it was as a former military officer or as an accountant or as a lawyer, and also now as a future congressman, what I see in Ohio, and this comes to my second motivation, is the lack of good leadership for our constituents, and here in this particular in the 1st District. You know, we were talking about issue 1 and the November ballot. It's the radicals that are trying to destroy our country and our state that motivates me to know the time to go back into public service is now, because the leadership that we see, not just locally but in Washington, is the radical left-wing agenda that is truly pushing our country off the cliff and is going to make it into a place where we don't recognize the greatness of America anymore. And that's my motivation for jumping in.
To me, the key change over my lifetime, which unfortunately has now spanned 6 decades, I have a hard time saying that. But the key difference I see is when I was growing up, there was this clear feeling that the American dream meant I could do whatever I could. If I just worked hard enough, you know, I paid my way after grade school. Our family, we had to pay our own way. So I had to pay my way through Elder. I had to pay my way through undergrad and grad school. But I was able to do whatever talent and hard work I could put into it. What seems to be happening now is everything's about non-essentials, meaning, the color of your skin makes you an oppressor or an oppressed. Where you grew up makes you successful or poor. None of that was even in the realm of thought way back when. Sure. I mean, you just had to work hard. And, if I wanted to be a welder, even today, if you wanted to be a welder, you can make six figures pretty early with zero debt.
Sure.
That the American dream's still there, but it seems like it's under attack.
Right.
And
absolutely,
it does seem to be centralized in Columbus and in D.C.
Sure.
How are you going to be able to attack that? I mean, if you get there, what is the kind of thing you're looking to do? Right.
Well, first, we have to call it out. And we have to say that, no, this is creeping its way, and it's existing right here in our backyard of Cincinnati. Cincinnati is on the verge of becoming just like San Francisco or the East Coast and the West Coast.
Or
Detroit. And so how do you stop that from happening? Continue to make the city and the counties that we love here in Ohio truly continue to be a thriving place for individuals, for families, for people of all backgrounds. Again, it's first calling out that, no, we've got problems here in our part of Ohio that we have to solve. And it's having the right leadership in Washington that's going to get that done. And what we're finding instead is, look, when it was a sad day for all of us, right, when Steve Chabot lost that election last year. And now what we have is not just a Democrat, but a radical Democrat who's got a track record, a history of siding with the elite liberals in Washington, D.C. to advance radical left-wing agendas here in the 1st Congressional District. And I'm talking about Greg Landsman.
Right.
And it's calling him out and leaders like him that first, that's what Ohio voters need to recognize is that, look, we've got problems that we need to fix right now. And so one of the things that I'm really trying to do is just educate voters of what some of the things that our current representative and Greg Landsman is doing that is harmful for our district, and then offering that, no, I will do the complete opposite and instead fight truly for American families. Look, Greg Landsman ran last year on a platform of families first. But yet he's done nothing but put families completely.
Yeah, I don't think of his actions having anything to do with helping families.
That's right, and it's specific. When it comes to the economy, for example, when the whole debt ceiling crisis came out, Greg Landsman's first position as our congressman was to raise the debt ceiling without any cuts in spending. Without any cuts. And here we are sitting at over $30 trillion in debt, and he wants to raise the debt ceiling without any cuts in spending. How is that going to help the Ohioans in the 1st District who are trying to, again, make ends meet, who are at the gas station at the pump, who are buying groceries, and inflation continues to skyrocket, and they're feeling the impact in their wallets? The second thing, too, is when it comes to public safety. Look, we're talking about the man who, while on Cincinnati City Council, called to defund the police. Wow. The Cincinnati police, when we had over 100 police officers that were a shortage at the time, and he called for the defunding of it. What has he done now? He's done nothing differently. As a U.S. Congressman, he voted against repealing a radical D.C. crime bill that would make it easier to target police officers and their families by protesters and to harass them. And then the last thing, parental rights. You talk about putting families first, but yet one of your first acts in office was to vote against the parental rights bill that simply says, look, parents, you have a right to know what happens in your kids' schools. You have a right to making the decision for your kids' education, yet he votes
no. This whole movement to replace parents with government or replace parents with schools is just ludicrous.
It's dangerous.
They even say they're our kids. I'm like, they're not your kids.
No.
You did nothing to bring them here.
Right. And that's not what government is supposed to do. The more that government meddles in our day-to-day operation, the more our country is going to look like the countries around the world that we read around, in the newspaper and see on TV that are ruled not by a democracy, but instead single-handedly by either socialist governments or ones that are ruled by dictators. And that's not what our country is supposed to be about.
And that's not how you're successful.
Exactly.
So one of the things we've heard from surveys and what happened in 2022 when we were expecting the red wave and got nothing, essentially. So what they're saying is a lot of the country is no longer Democrat or Republican. For the first time in 2024, the majority are going to be not associated with either party. So we've got that middle. The second thing we're hearing is in 2024, it'll be the first election where the baby boomers are not the largest block. It's millennials and Gen X. So how do you make your message stay away from the partisan issues, but concentrate on the things that hit with everybody? We're about families. We're about helping with the family. What's your key message to that younger generation that wants to be left alone and allowed to succeed?
That's right. I mean, the message, right, the resounding message to them is not the polarizing politics that the generations before them have been used to seeing, but instead it is truly a problem-solving type platform. Look, I have a history not just from my background, but also just growing up as a Filipino American, in New Jersey, and then finding his way, surprisingly,
Cincinnati's a long way from New Jersey.
That's right, finding his way suddenly to Southwest Ohio. But it's problem solving. It's how to recognize problems and then truly seek to solve them. And not be afraid to come up with the bold solutions that are going to solve those problems, instead of gravitating towards a polar extreme just because the media thinks it's a good idea in terms of headlines, but instead problem solving. And based on just my unique and varied background as an accountant, as a lawyer, former military officer, as a father of 4 kids, there's a lot of problems out there. They're not just siloed, but we need a leader in Southwest Ohio, someone who can represent us in Washington, who's going to see these problems. The vast majority of Ohioans want someone that's just going to solve their problems to allow them to make the decisions that they want to make throughout their day and not meddle into their business, but instead focus on national security. How are you going to keep me safe, and keep our country safe? Or how are you going to make sure the economy doesn't go down the toilet? It's those
stop spending money.
Right. So it's things like that I think my generation that you alluded to, Gen X and the millennial generation, is just going to want to see. Stop talking in the same way as every other politician. Of course, you got to contrast with your opponent in a substantive way. I'm not for ad hominem attacks. I'm never going to attack Greg Landsman because he shows shirtless on the front page of the Cincinnati Enquirer. Instead, I'm going to go at his track record, and show how you're not the problem solver. You're not the fighter for American families that you ran on. Instead, what Southwest Ohio needs is a true fighter and a true problem solver, and I think that's the message that's going to carry the day.
Well, thank you for running. I know it's not the easiest thing in the world, especially with 4 small kids. I'm going to be amazed to watch this happen as it unfurls. Where can people talk to you? Where's your website?
Look, so this train is just getting started. I mean, the momentum is growing. We're really, it's a thrill to see how many people are reaching out and are excited that families are truly being the cornerstone of our campaign. www.orlandosonza.com is where you can get involved. Plug in, chip in if you can, volunteer if you can. We're going to be all around, not just Hamilton County, Warren County as well. It's a big district. And so we're going to be around everywhere. If you want to get involved, orlandosonza.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter and be updated on the campaign. And I'm just excited to see all the folks out there that are going to be just as excited as us.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks so
for
much.
The discussion. We will have all of his information up there on the website as well. Just go to restoreliberty.us. If you have any questions, comments, or want to make your voice heard, you can reach me at 513-400-5832. 513-400-5832, or just George at restoreliberty.us. Thanks for coming with us. We'll hope to be back real soon.